Got it.
Okay, we're live in recording. And Tammy's back. Okay, so I will call to order this special monthly meeting, March 2nd, 2021, special monthly meeting of the Village of Troopersburg Board of Trustees. Trustee Giles is on her way. Everyone else is present. Purpose of this meeting is primarily a budget working session, but are there any additions or changes to the agenda? I do have a couple, but I want to see if anyone else has any.
I'm not quite sure if this requires a resolution by us or not. There's a request from the Farmers Market Board that the manager be paid over 12 months as opposed to 10 months currently. So if we need to make a motion for that change, I'd like to put that on the agenda. If that's just a kind of an agreement here, then we can do that just as part of the budget conversation.
Yeah, we don't need board authorization unless we're changing the dollar amount. So we can.
Yeah, same dollar amount, just over 12 months.
No, that's fine.
All right.
Welcome, Jessica. We've only just begun. Anything else that we want to add to the agenda? I only have two items, which I'll address very quickly now, and then we'll spend the rest of the evening on the budget unless we have an executive session issue. One is, as everyone saw, we released the draft police reform report for the village yesterday. We will be holding a public meeting. It's technically not a public hearing, but we'll be holding a public meeting to field additional comments on it. We will be doing that on Thursday, the 18th at 7 p.m. What I just need to know is whether there's a desire by the board to make it an official meeting, in which case we'll have to notice it. And I guess the purpose of doing that is if there are questions that anyone other than Keith or myself may want to either field or address or comment on, then we can certainly do that. That's not an issue. In addition to that, we need to pick a night for the week of the 22nd. I realize this is a bit short notice, but we need to pick a night for the week of the 22nd, or we could do Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th. And as I say that, let me just check all the calendars. Yeah. So the week of the 22nd or Monday the 29th, Tuesday the 30th, we need to have another special board meeting for the purpose of, by resolution, ratifying the reform report after any edits are made based on comments at the public meeting on the 18th. That has to then be submitted by email to the state budget office by Thursday, April 1st. So first things first, is there enough desire to attend on the part of Ben, or Jessica to make the 18th a formal meeting? Yay or nay? And then what night works best for everyone for the board meeting to discuss and with the intention of ratifying the final draft?
I'll say I would like to join the 18th, but I will not be able to. That's going to conflict with CPZR.
I would like to
both be
attend the
using
18th.
We'll both be using the village Zoom that night, so you may need to reschedule CPZR anyway.
Well, I can work around that, but as I'm actually saying that, some of that committee may also want to join this meeting, so I will talk to the committee and see if we would like to reschedule generally.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jess, you were saying?
Oh, I would like to attend the 18th.
Okay. So then upside down, Tammy, if we could notice, don't create the meeting link, but just notice a special meeting for Thursday, the 18th at 7 p.m.
Can somebody please help me here?
Turn your computer upside down.
Okay, really?
I got nothing.
That's all
Seriously?
I got.
I got all you techies and nobody's got an answer about this? You're killing me. All right.
I mean, get rid of the
We hear you.
poltergeist.
We hear you fine, and the connection is actually really good for once. So maybe you should just leave it that way.
Really? Can you take me seriously like this? Because I can't even look at you right now. Thoughts, suggestions? Really? Nobody's got a thing? Okay,
I got
No,
Darfler,
totally.
come on.
Google my video is upside down. Say Google my video is upside down on my rack model laptop. The answers, 17 answers will pop up immediately.
Alexa, make my picture right side up.
Have you
Um,
rebooted? There's always the reboot. Start with a reboot.
So Morgan, Thursday the 18th, 7 p.m. I need a notice for a special board meeting.
Got it.
For the purpose of taking public comment on the village's draft police reform report.
Okay.
Next, what night works best for everyone? For either the week of the 22nd or Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th.
Is it at all possible to combine those two things?
Potentially, but the issue is if we get enough comment either via email or at the meeting on the 18th that warrants, well, we certainly want to add those comments to the appendices in the report, even if we don't change any of our content. And certainly if we do change our content, then we'll need time for that. So the latter part of the week of the 22nd, or if it's all the same to everyone, just jumping to the 29th or 30th gives us, which means Keith, time to do some of those edits.
29th is fine for me. I could probably swing the 30th too, but the 29th would be easier.
I'm good then. 6 p.m. is not my hot time, though I may have replied to many doodle poll otherwise. 6:30 is better unless that jumps into bedtime.
Ben and Keith, the 29th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. So Morgan, meeting notice number 2 is Monday, the 29th, 7 p.m. for the purpose of board discussion and potential adoption of the recommendations of the police reform report. Better add that to my calendar.
So it's 7 p.m.
7 p.m. And in the future, if 7 p.m. is better, we can certainly do that. I know that some years ago, there was a desire for additional meetings to be earlier, so we would hopefully get done earlier, but we know how that goes. Oops.
Yeah, I'll say in general, 7's probably a better time for me.
Yeah, the same.
Okay. Okay, so we've got those 2 meetings squared away, and they will be noticed as such. The other item to the agenda is Chief Nelson is in need of a new laptop for one of the vehicles. And I'm just pulling up the quote now. Unless you have it there, Keith. This one, I've got it here.
Okay.
This will not require a permissive referendum. He's not taking it from a reserve. It's coming out of a contractual line. But because of the dollar amount, we do need board approval to spend it. And so I would entertain a motion to spend, to accept the quote from Bright, B-R-I-T-E, bright.com, in the amount of $2,902 for a laptop and accessories for one of the police vehicles.
Yes, so moved. That was a motion proposed, correct?
That was, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any conversation or discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, right side up, Tammy, while you were gone, we established the 18th and the Monday, the 29th, both days at 7 p.m. for special board meetings. Okay. So if there's no other change to the agenda, I'll move us along to the budget. And hopefully everyone has a budget spreadsheet available to them. If you want me to try to share it, I can, but I don't know if that'll be particularly helpful because I actually need this split screen.
I emailed it to everybody after I emailed it to you, Gordon,
Okay, good.
instead of it just being in the Dropbox, because I wasn't sure how that was working anymore.
My plan is to go line by line through the general budget tonight. I don't know if we will get to water and sewer. Any questions or comments on anything we heard from any of the departments before we start getting granular? If you think of anything, you just jump in. I'd like to start on the expense side. And what I'll do, if it's okay with everyone, this is easier in person, obviously, but I'll just go line by line, read through what's there. I am looking at the 2% raise column. And then if there's anything to discuss, just interrupt. I don't know of a better way to do that without taking all night. So the first line, which is A 1010.1, is village board pay, which has been frozen for a couple of years, remains the same year over year. Deputy mayor pay remains the same year over year. The following line, village board contractual has remained the same. There is a question if anyone can think of, let's see, let me move this. The broadband study is in there. So the village has committed $3,000 to Tompkins County when their broadband study effort begins. So that is where we've placed that dollar amount. We have the
I'm sorry,
mayor's.
Gordon, you're already, you're starting where with A1110?
I'm sorry. So the very first expense line, which is A1010.1.
If you're looking at
Thank
this,
you.
okay, you got it. Yeah.
So village board personal services.
Thank
And
you.
I'm looking at the 2% raise line.
Thanks.
And so just moving from line to line, I won't read each account line number unless we get lost. So the first line is the village board pay, which is unchanged. Second line is deputy mayor pay, which is unchanged. Third line, village board contractual. That $3,000 is what we have pledged to Tompkins County for their broadband study when the time comes.
So I see in the past years we've used a little bit here and there. Do we want to bump that up just a smidge above the 3,000 if we think the 3,000 is going to go out? I know we're not looking to pump things up right now, but I know like a training or two here or there, that's the kind of thing that I think we've seen in the past.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. If we wanted to make it 3,500.
I think that would make sense.
I agree with that. Got to get the clerk some webcam training, apparently. Oh, she's back.
Sure, they have their own line for that.
She's not upside down.
All right, so village board contractual making 3,500. Next line is the mayor's line, mayor's pay, and then the following line is mayor contractual, which is blank. We haven't spent anything out of that line, so I don't know if Tammy or Morgan, if you can think of anything that I would be pulling from there.
Not off the top of my head.
Why don't we zero out that line? If I think of anything super fun to do, I'll take it from the village board contractual line.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of, Warden, was maybe and I don't even remember if you did it last year, your little stint at the school towards the end of the year with the third grade class, fourth grade class.
There was no school at the end of last year, and
Yeah, that's what
I'm sure they won't be having visitors at the end of this year either. So,
Yeah, probably not.
okay, so we'll zero out the mayor contractual line. Next line down is auditor contractual. Vicky, is that 12,200? Is that a number from them?
No, but I can verify that with, I was just going with what our bill, what has been over the last couple of years. But I can
What has it?
verify
What
that
what
with,
has it been? What has it been the last couple of years?
um.
They've
hold on.
held that flat for a couple of years anyway.
Yes,
So let's keep that at 12,000. If it's $100 either way, that's not a big deal.
okay.
Okay, next line is treasurer personal services. If everyone's keeping track at home, that's significantly different from previous years because of Vicky's career planning. Then we have clerk treasurer equipment. I did have a question about what is on the docket to be purchased and when.
Oh, sorry. And well, in discussions with Tammy since then, mine was a new computer for me because I know that this one is getting slower and older, and I knew Ben was using our old computer. But if we're gonna also continue to work at home, Tammy had mentioned Morgan's using her personal computer, which is not, it's a few years old and not great to use at home.
Well, it's her personal computer, so she shouldn't be storing village information on it. That would be my biggest concern. And we actually have, at least we did have, we budgeted significantly more than we needed for mine this year. And so the last time I checked with Vicki, there was still room in this budget to buy Morgan a laptop. And again, we should, you know, if we can take it out of this year, better yet.
Well, not necessarily, depending how overtime goes. So we'll leave the $1,000 in. Mhm.
I was just going to point out that your clerk's office doesn't have overtime.
No, but the general fund does, and you're all in the general fund. So
The other thing, like Tammy said, hers didn't cost nearly as much, and I do budget also an equipment line through water and sewer too. So we probably would be able to afford 2 laptops next year in the next
Right.
budget with what, if you leave those lines alone for next year.
any board thoughts? I do know that we are working diligently towards a more comprehensive IT policy. So we are going to need to make sure we inventory all of our computers, make sure everyone's using village-owned computers for village work, at least on the part of the staff. I think electeds would be exempted from that. I
So
know
yeah, so
elected.
can I just get clear on what's happening right now? Right now, who's using what?
So up until November, Morgan and I were both using our personal laptops at home to work remotely for the village. We purchased a new laptop for me, for my position. I got it late November, early December. Morgan is still using her personal laptop at home.
And what's in the office?
We have desktops in the office.
So Rorden, are you considering a model that has something like a laptop with a docking station so that you have a company computer that's more mobile and just hooks up to a monitor? And you don't have
That's
to
exactly
separate
what mine is. We purchased a docking station for my computer when we purchased the laptop. So I believe that is the wave of the future as far as what comes again, the next round.
Yeah, that would be the same one we would get from Morgan. And part of the reason why Ben Darfler and I have been going, mainly Ben has been going back and forth with Jeff Burns about this we first need to inventory what computers we have and then figure out which ones we can sunset. And then we also have, other policies and and issues and things like that to flesh out. But yeah, laptop with docking station is certainly going to be better than desktop plus laptop.
Agreed. Okay, thanks.
Ben Carver and Keith, if I don't hear you, I'm assuming you are not jumping in.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, it seems like it needs to kind of come into compliance with a security policy, so that makes a lot of sense. I know, I never, nor I've ever worked really has anyone liked personal computers being used for work purposes, so I think that would be a worthwhile investment.
Okay, good. Next line is Tammy's fixture video cam line, clerk treasurer contractual, which we've kept at 250, looks like. And clerk treasurer training. Obviously, COVID means you don't go anywhere, so you've only spent $300 so far, $5,500. What are you planning on spending $5,500 for next year?
NICOM, if they have it.
NICOM is $5,000.
For 3 of us, it's with hotel and travel and the conference. Yeah, it's really close to that.
When is that? What month?
September.
September, October.
Okay, so I've never heard of the NICOM conference. Do you want to give me a brief synopsis of what that means?
Oh, yeah. So it's an annual conference that the New York Conference of Mayor puts on, along with the Comptroller's Office and a plethora of other state agencies. It begins on Monday, ends on Thursday. It's all-day trainings and networking, that kind of thing, which is how, for instance, I get my credentials as a certified master or certified municipal clerk or registered municipal clerk, and eventually master.
And is it traditional to send the treasurer, the clerk, and the deputy clerk?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, last year we didn't go anywhere. We did it virtually, so it was $100 a piece.
Okay.
But there are other trainings that I had signed up for last year, but of course were canceled. I think Morgan, there were a couple, it was a grant writing, Morgan, that you were going to, that she never got to the second or the third, whatever edition it was.
It was online.
Right. Oh, okay. So a lot of stuff that was in person just didn't happen at all. I mean, I still have some credits and I'm looking forward to, but it doesn't mean that we can't do one versus another.
And when is that conference slated to be, Tammy? Do you know?
It's usually in September, October. It depends on
Okay,
the
so they haven't certainly canceled anything yet.
Oh,
or
no.
Told you about
No.
virtual. Okay.
Registration usually comes out mid to late July.
Okay.
So I think a couple of years ago, we did have a discussion about whether we needed for all of you to go. I mean, at this point, honestly, Tammy, you should be giving the lectures, not taking them. So I think we should discuss that now. It's not a huge deal. I think if you think that the village is benefiting from all 3 of you going all week, I'm skeptical about whether they will hold it in person in September or not, but they may. They may also do what I know some of the other national fraternal organizations and financial agencies are doing is they're limiting attendance. So, 1 person per municipality, 2 people, that kind of thing, just to be able to maintain some type of distancing, and then offering a simultaneous virtual or a live stream of it. So I guess I would be curious to hear, particularly Tammy and Vicky, really how much bang for the buck is the village getting by having both of you go, given your tenure and experience.
And to piggyback that, Norton, is there a way to cherry pick certain sessions that might be new or offered that wouldn't constitute an entire week away? Can you drop in and pick sessions? No.
Well, unfortunately,
Well-
I mean, is it in Saratoga this year or is it in Lake Placid? So-
It does, I mean, either or, it's not like you'd go
Right.
on Tuesday and go back on Thursday for another class. That just wouldn't be realistic.
No, but if something lined up, so certainly I've gone to conferences. I'm sure we all kind of have in DC or whatever, where you're like, well, they couldn't afford for me to go the whole week, but I could pick these two that were Thursday, Friday together and have them.
I mean, I guess, but the reality is that they kind of, the way they set up the agenda or the program, I think they do it purposely to keep you there. So they kind of drag things out. I don't know. I don't know. I feel pretty strongly about going, and not just because I've done it for 15 years and it's routine or habit. I come back with something new every year. I know Vicky feels a little differently than I do about it, which is why she's been going every other year. I think it's super important that Morgan go, just for networking alone, but also because as things change and become whatever they're going to become after COVID, it's going to be important. And she's going to learn a lot from those trainings and from her peers at other villages and cities throughout the state. So yeah, I think it's worth it.
I guess one question is, do we roll the dice and say New York being New York? I mean, I put it maybe at 50-50 that it's virtual, even though it's going to be in September or October. If it's virtual, I mean, assuming that brings the cost down, right?
Yeah, it takes it from $5,000 to 300 if all three of us go.
Okay.
I mean, it's significant. I mean, if this fall, if they decided to hold it in person and with Vicky's life plan, I think it would probably be only two of us anyway, right? I mean, if you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're if you're going to retire and then go to part-time, do we need to budget for all three of us?
it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I like going, but I prefer, especially if it's in Lake Placid, I like going up there, but I don't have to go. I mean, not that I don't learn anything, because it's always nice, because there's one particular session that all the treasurers get together and they compare things, and, it's nice meeting people that you can talk to about things that you go through, but, I
Basically.
think a part of me wants to say that if Morgan goes, I think she should take some of the treasurer track, because I think she'll get some, she has to start preparing. A year is not very long away, and and as I talked to with Warden, some of the stuff I'm going to try and give up that I do and focus mostly on just the accounting stuff. So I don't have to go.
So can I just suggest that we flag this one for further discussion? I think, if there's a couple that maybe we can whittle down a little bit later, but if we can, carry on, we can find our sort of bottom line and then work our way backwards if there's some flexibility in a couple.
And I think that makes great sense, but just so I'm clear in my head, is all of this for NICOM? So it's like $1,800 a piece, or is there also other training in that 5,500?
No, that's everything.
So that's, do we know what the NICOM piece is, if we're thinking of one specific?
The majority of that is NICOM. Our other trainings are minimal,
Okay.
They might be anywhere from $15 to maybe a couple hundred, and that would be a lot.
Okay, great, thanks.
And there's generally, not a lot of travel with the ones that are less expensive because they're all online.
Okay, very helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I don't want to, I didn't want to belabor it. 5,500 is not a giant number, but I don't want to necessarily, if there was a sense that either of the three of you were lukewarm on NICOM fall training, but you went because you could, then I would reduce that, but we can come back to it, as Ben said.
Honestly, Jordan, I'm really okay with not going. I mean,
Right.
I'm to the end of my career where what I'm going to be doing after I retire is, daily stuff and stuff that I've been doing for the last 10 years. I would definitely say it's more important for Morgan to go, than me,
All right. Well, I will take that under advisement.
Okay.
Next line down is clerk pay. Following line is deputy clerk pay. Law contractual, you all have as a blank. I'm recommending that we increase that to $10,000 for this year. Just because I'm anticipating the potential for more legal spending away from outside of things like zoning and planning. If that seems like too big of a jump, I can be talked down. But the 5,000 would certainly be too little in 2020, in the second half of 2021 and first half of 2022, by my estimation.
Yeah, I mean,
we
are we
can
at the stage of saying, put that in there and then let's see if we have to back something out?
Yeah, we can do that. We can put in 10, Vicky, and then highlight it.
It's been a minute since I've seen a lawyer's bill cross the planning board chair seat, so.
Gordon, do you want me to highlight in blue or something, all the ones that you guys are iffy on?
Yeah, blue, yellow, whatever's.
Oh, okay.
Whatever color works.
But you want me to highlight them? I guess that's the question. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have on my personal sheet spreadsheet, I have clerk treasurer training highlighted and law contractual highlighted with 10,000 inserted there. Next line down is elections contractual. So there is an election coming up in March of 2022 for which the village has to pay the Board of Elections. So that number is fairly well set. Next line is building personnel. This is, again, we're going to revise this, I hope, for next budget season, but we tend to break out between various aspects, the different payroll and salary of the different employees, so we can allocate them to certain departments, which actually, the more I think about it, makes less and less sense when it's all in the general budget. But in any event, building personnel is payroll at 2%. Buildings, office building contractual. This is materials and supplies, which we simply set based on what we see our spend actually is. So we have 15,000 and change to the end of January. If we project forward to the end of May, that's 23. So we're just setting next year's number at this year's number. Then we have buildings, maintenance and repairs, unchanged from last year. Gas and electric reduced slightly from last year. Buildings insurance, I'm assuming that's the number you've gotten from the carrier.
Yes.
And will that change if we look at this quote we got from Bailey?
It will. I did talk to Jeremy today, and I think it'll change almost substantially. I guess I'll say substantially. I haven't had a chance to review any of those numbers yet.
So just so everyone is aware, we were approached by Bailey Insurance or Bailey Place, I forget which name they use right now, and were asked if they could quote us on all of our municipal insurance, primarily the, do they quote workers' comp, Vicki?
Yes, but it wasn't, he said we should stick with PERMA and with workers' comp and who we have for disability.
Right. So this would cover property and casualty basically for the village. And it's a very competitive quote. What is plugged in here tonight is the old number. And I've asked Vicky to go through line by line of the new insurance quote to make sure all of the coverages are identical. The insurance broker states that they are. I just want to make sure that is the case. And if so, it's a, what is it, about a $10,000 savings? It's not nothing. So it may be worth considering. We'll circle back to that next meeting. Buildings IT contractual. This is our website at $200 a month.
No, that actually, where I put down where it,
Oh yeah, I see it.
where we have website. This is like a lot of Jeff's stuff.
Yep.
You know what, backup and stuff he does for the office.
Right.
That kind of
So
stuff.
buildings IT, I stand corrected. Buildings IT contractual is Jeff Burns, hardware and data backup work that he does for the village. Workers' comp. Reimbursable, should be reimbursable, not reimburable expenses, has been zeroed out for a few years now. Telephone is based on consumption. Web design, there it is. There is FLX Designs, $200 a month. And again, anyone who has questions, just stop me because I'm just going to keep
Can we
rolling down this list.
scroll back for a second? There's above elections contractual, there's engineering contractual. Did I miss what we said there? That's zeroed out, and it has been, but there has some expenses for this year. So I was wondering what we're doing. That's A 1440.4.
Right, Vicky, what's in engineer contractual for this year?
What they've been doing, I'm assuming the way it's described for the annex. Are you having them do work for that?
There's nothing in the
Having-
line.
Having who do what for who?
Oh, I'm sorry, MRB. I'm sorry, MRB.
Do work for which?
Well, I can give you the bills. That's what it's the description's not very describable. So I'm assuming that it was for something that you guys had asked them to do.
You'll have to send me that bill because everything
Okay.
MRB's been doing has been either bridge related or water sewer related.
Okay. I'll be happy to send them to you.
But Ben, does that answer your question? That engineer contractual should
Yeah,
be
if we
blank?
if we're not assuming we'll need it, and the dollars that are in there right now may be in error, then I don't have a problem leaving it zeroed out. I just know we talk with MRB a lot. I just want to make sure we've got
Right.
place for that to happen.
The only thing that a engineering contractual line in the general budget would be used for would most likely be a large facility for fire or EMS or DPW. Everything else is water and sewer. We don't own bridges. We're not allowed, so it wouldn't be a bridge issue. Roadway engineering, but we don't engineer village roads. They're usually, historically, they're put in by the developer and then deeded over to the village.
What about the footbridge?
Oh, and that's what I was just gonna say, Tammy. I do have expenses that I've put towards bridges in our budget line. If you want me to transfer that to that general,
We'll have to find out. We'll have to find a home for expenses related to the footbridge because it's technically not a bridge.
okay,
Comptroller is going to get unhappy with you if he sees money spent in a bridge line.
okay. I'll send all that to you this week, Gordon.
Okay. So I don't remember the last time we had anything in that engineering contractual line, to be honest, but we keep it open because that's where a non-water sewer village type project would go.
Got it.
And the web design is a contract that's ongoing or that is going to be paid this year?
It's
Can you remind
ongoing.
me?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a combination of ongoing support, additional development, and hosting and backup and all
And the
that.
hosting, okay.
Yeah.
And backup. So should we be asking, and I know you guys look at this as small change, but you remember I came from the restaurant world. There is no such thing as small change because it all adds up. Is there duplicative services in the IT buildings and the web design guy?
No.
So the IT buildings, Jessica, is the physical hard drives in the offices are backed up nightly, whatever data is on them.
So we're paying them for storage of that data.
We own the backup servers.
Yeah, okay.
The web design is anytime Tammy or Morgan break the website, we can call Nick and he'll
Sure.
fix it right away. I should say
And
just Tammy.
I
Sorry,
should say
Morgan.
ongoing development too. So we're working with Nick. Tom and I are working with Nick to put some forms up for Tom's work and all that kind of ongoing. They're kind of just 24/7 on call for us for whatever we want.
Great. Yeah, expedition of work efficiency. We like it. Thanks.
So we'll move back on the next line after web design, since that's the last place we talked about, is central garage equipment. So this is basically DPW on the fly equipment needs, new weed eater, push lawnmower, that kind of thing. The small stuff that doesn't need to be reserved for. Central garage building repairs. You just scroll. I know that the central garage equipment line did go up a little bit from last year, but the central garage building repair line was reduced. Central garage DPW contractual is reduced slightly from last year. These are materials and supplies down at DPW. This next gas and electric line is also DPW, basically flat, slightly down from last year. Training, I had asked Dusty about the training, and he said, I know that he wants to get water license training. I have thought about maybe reducing that to 500, but I don't know that that's necessary.
Water has a training line too, Gordon.
No, true enough. Next line is fuel. Reduced slightly from last year. Here's another insurance line that Vicki is going to compare with the new quote. Following line is workers' comp, which we're kind of tied to.
Oh, workers' comp won't change.
Right. No, I mean, we don't have a choice. The quote is the quote. We're gonna pay the workers' comp bill.
Oh, okay, sorry.
1640.46, Vicki, the telephone. Is that the cell phone reimbursement?
It includes the cell phone reimbursement, yes.
That 2,500 has got to be for 5 guys.
I can look at it. I'll mark it with the blue and look at it, okay?
Because it was 2,000 last year. I know that cell phone prices have gone up, but not that much. So I think that has a 5th person, which
Okay,
would make sense based on the 2,000 from last year at 500 apiece.
right. I might not have changed that when we decided not to do
Right.
the 5th person, but I'm gonna highlight it and I'll look at it, okay, Gordon?
Highlight it and look at it, but reduce it in the spreadsheet to 2,000.
Okay, sure.
Municipal association dues. I ask every year, and every year I get the wrong answer. Do we have to pay this? I'm told the answer is yes. Police, personal services. This includes salary for a second full-time officer. However, it does also freeze the per diem wages at 2020-21 levels. That is at Chief's request. He feels that the part-timers and per diems who are working full-time elsewhere and either just want a little extra money or in some cases are working here because their full-time job is as a peace officer and they need a certain number of hours in a police department to maintain their police accreditation, that they benefit just fine from getting those hours, and we don't need to give them the traditional annual raise. We talked about this, I think, a little bit in our last meeting. This dates back to a time when we didn't have any full-time employees outside of DPW, so it was nice to give the part-timers a raise every year. I think the time has come, especially as we add more full-time personnel, to do away with that. So that's what's in that number. It doesn't address, and just in full disclosure, it doesn't address if we were to need to pay a full-time officer more in order to attract them. This is just the standard second full-time officer rate that we had looked at last year but never filled. Police equipment remains essentially unchanged from last year. Police contractual has decreased. Contractual is where chief pays for things that come up. Could be equipment, could be training over and above the training line. It could be, well, like the laptop we just authorized is coming out of a contractual line. The more of the unexpecteds. Police fuel is reduced from last year. Police vehicle maintenance remains the same. Police insurance is what it is. Police training, we heard Joe last week talk about $2,500 being a good number to be able to send officers to various trainings as needed. Police workers' comp is what it is. Police telephone is increased slightly.
600.
I think that's another cell phone line.
Yes, and he just added another cell phone to it that has to do with the body cams.
Right. Long story short, bail reform laws that were passed in late 2019 require a short time frame for turning over certain evidence. So police business should only be done on village-owned police department phones.
Okay.
Police small equipment remains the same. Uniforms and vests decrease slightly. Vehicle repairs zeroed out this year. Traffic control contractual. Those are the lights, right, Vicky?
No, those are like if police want to buy like the things that sit in the crosswalks, or if Dusty needs to buy new signs for, handicap parking, whatever.
Right.
That's kind of a shared line between police and DPW.
The pedestrian buddies
Yes, thank you.
that get crushed in the middle of the road every year.
Gosh. And then become cross hazards for people with ambulatory difficulties as they try to get back up onto the street. Sorry.
Yeah. And make them sturdier than those trucks barreling down in front of Gimme won't do as much damage to them. These next few lines.
I had a quick question on that.
Yeah.
What's the red line coloring through the vehicle repair line signify?
That was a line that when Chief Nelson first got here, we had a huge repair on one of the cars that we used that line to separate it from his normal repairs because he didn't want it, and we don't really need it, Ben.
Got it.
The first from A3410.1, basically everything you see that says fire in front of it, I'm going to scroll right past, since that was set last fall. Unless anyone has questions about it, which we can certainly talk about why it is what it is, but those were basically said. We have adjusted those in the past in a pinch, but we try not to monkey with those much, since that is what we presented to the towns as our spending in those departments. Which brings us to deer management. We have kept it $5,000 essentially since inception. This pays for the feeders, the corn we purchased to bait the sites, and the deer participants have been very good about staying within that budget ever since. And I do have an update, which I will have next week. They're having a very good year in terms of deer harvest. Next line is fire inspections. We did lose our fire inspector. He's not able to maintain his work here. I have heard that there are a couple of Ithaca Fire Department members who may be interested in doing it as a part-time gig. So I will hopefully have someone to take some of the workload off of Tom's desk. But the safety inspection, personal services code, and fire inspection, that's part of Tom's pay. Safety inspection equipment is anything ancillary he might need, printer, that kind of thing. Same with contractual, that's for supplies, paper, and whatnot.
So did he get an equipment purchase last year such that he doesn't need something moved forward next year?
Yes, he bought a computer in March of last year.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, that guy's wearing a lot of hats right now. I want to make sure he's got the tools he needs.
Safety inspection training is unchanged. Tom's good about staying up on state building codes, a couple classes a year. Safety inspection transportation. This is the village vehicle that he uses when going to visit sites. Safety inspection legal hasn't changed. Fairly consistent spending there.
That's consultation, legal consultation.
Yeah, so if there is a code issue in a restaurant, for example, that we need to bring Guy in to consult on, that's where that would come out of. Now, ambulance personal services, this does reflect, I just got
You
done
skipped
saying we don't want.
fuel. You skipped safety inspection fuel, which is yellow. And I'm wondering why it comes after legal and not next to transportation. And if there is a dollar amount that should be, was this a new program to pay for fuel this year?
That's a new line.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Warden. It's a new budget line, Jess. Because Tom now has this car, we need to budget for fuel for him from the school. And that was
Oh, we
like
can purchase from the school. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just in the interest of clarity. Let me state that Tom does not have a new car.
Oh,
The
well,
village has a vehicle available for the code enforcement officer to use.
okay.
It is a hybrid, but it does need a little bit of fuel.
I would suggest that new line would read better as 0.421 or something like that.
No, well, the rest of our fuel lines are 0.46.
Oh, okay. It made me think legal was insurance for the car.
Next line is the ambulance personal services. Now, I just got done saying how we don't monkey with the fire line very much because that's what we presented to the towns. However, in this case, we are changing from what was presented to the towns to reflect the 2% raise for the full-time employees and not 3%, as well as a freeze of the per diem rates. Other than that, every ambulance line is exactly as presented to the towns. So if it won't hurt anybody's feelings, I will skip all the way down to a 5010.1.
Well, just a quick note before we do that. In that personal line for ambulance personal services, just making sure everyone noticed the expected balance. So when we get to the discussion about unencumbered balance later, just keep that in mind.
Right. The February payroll numbers are moderated slightly on the overtime, but we are still looking at anywhere from 60 to 80,000 over budget on ambulance personnel due to overtime, which the village will eat, as we always do. Street administration personal 5010.1. This is the, again, the way it's broken apart. This is that portion of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vicky, but this is that portion of the DPW supervisor's pay allocated to him being the supervisor.
Correct. And 20% for the deputy clerk.
Right. We have front office spread out between departments unnecessarily, but we'll change that next year.
Yeah.
Street maintenance personal services. This is the rest of the labor costs for DPW. Again, you heard the conversation last week with Dusty. We're planning on running with 4, including Dusty, running with 4. The rest for all of the 21-22 budget year. And then we will reevaluate as needed, whether we need to think about adding a 5th person in the next budget year. Street maintenance equipment. This is, remind me what this random $100 is, Vicky?
It's literally random $100 just if they need anything small. It's random. I think it's been in there since I've been here.
But we could take a random $100 out of central garage equipment also.
We could. Do you want me to delete this?
Please.
Sure.
It's been nagging me for years.
Okay.
Street maintenance contractual. Is down slightly. Where is this? Vicky, have you added, and I don't want to get into anything personnel related in open session, but have you added a place for the stipend for? Okay.
No, but I think we talked about that and you had asked me to wait.
Okay. So let's add $4,000 to this line, make it 17.5. No, let me take that back. What is that individual's split to water and sewer?
60-40.
So he's 60% DPW.
Right.
So let's add the 2,400 to this line.
Does that not have to go into the personnel line, Warden? Because
No,
you have to be.
because it is not payroll. Don't change his, I mean, it is payroll, but it is not an hourly wage.
Okay, but I think we still have to put it or make a new line that's like 1-1 because it would need to be under a payroll line. Because it's going to be taxed. It's
All right, then add then add it to 5010.1.
okay. How much? I'm sorry, how much did you say?
2,400.
Okay.
Well, no, you're gonna have to create a separate line because it's not
Okay.
gonna go up every year. It's not subject to a 2% raise or 3% raise.
Okay, I can add another line. That's not a big deal.
It's a flat number. All right, so add that 2,400.
Oop,
And then you'll have to add 1,600 somewhere in water.
Okay, I'll do the same thing in water. It'll be the same. Okay, all done.
Thank you.
Hmm.
All right, street maintenance contractual then is down slightly from last year. Is that salt?
Yes.
Okay. Street maintenance chips. This is a pass-through line, so we receive highway aid every year from New York State. There is, at least at the moment, fingers crossed, no indication that that is going to be cut in this year's state budget. So this is where we spend it. You'll see it as a revenue line when we get to the revenue side. Street maintenance reimbursement, bridges contractual. This is where project money would go. Ben, do you want to give everyone a quick update on the bridge, or save it for next week?
The cemetery one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to give an update. Well, I'll give an update here and probably again tomorrow, next week. We're hoping to be able to put in a water line as part of the cemetery bridge project that would connect the cemetery water line to the Lake Street water line. The cemetery water line is a dead end, which is something we're trying to get away from in our water infrastructure. Unfortunately, due to the size of piping on Cemetery Road, we would have to replace a lot of the piping that's currently there. It's too small to work in with a connection all the way to Lake Street. And that is a much larger project, which we're not set up to undertake at this point. So for now, we're basically stepping away from that project. The bridge will include small changes to the design so that we can add a water line and hang it on the bridge down the road, should we want to, without additional construction or kind of taking a part of the bridge. But that's the extent of it. And the county has agreed to take on that expense. So we're just gonna let that happen and then prepare for the larger work later down the road when it makes sense.
One of the projects I have lined up for Dusty at some point this year is to begin. I think we may have mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned in a meeting or not, is doing an actual GIS mapping and digitizing of all of our water and sewer mains. And one of the things that we'll find when it's done is where else we might have dead end connections that need to be closed for fire suppression and whatnot. So that will almost certainly lead to grant applications for that kind of work, and we'll include cemetery on that. While I'm thinking of it, I think our last meeting was before the backhoe sold. Is that right?
Yes.
Everything's kind of running together at this point. So the backhoe did sell for $76,600. It was a nice number. And then in a twist of fate, while waiting for a firm quote from John Deere, Dusty decided, and I applaud his initiative, to give Caterpillar one last chance. And suddenly the sales rep, who we all have a rocky relationship with at this point, but who heard that we were going to John Deere, suddenly became very helpful. Gave Dusty a quote for a fantastic machine that Casey got very excited about. And it turns out to be $5,000 less than the John Deere. So between the sale of the old backhoe and what's in the reserves and the differential, I gave Dusty the go ahead to order the Caterpillar, the new backhoe, which will arrive tomorrow.
Great.
In a reverse twist of fate, the old backhoe went to its new proud owner yesterday. The new backhoe arrives tomorrow, and our first and largest water main break of the year occurred today. So if anyone ever questions the reality of Murphy's Law, just remember March the 2nd, 2021.
I think do we need to do a permissive referendum to pay for that new backhoe?
So we will need to do a permissive referendum for the difference. because the 76.6 was received into the general fund. We did not allocate that to a reserve.
Okay, so, okay.
And
So
we
we're
will
gonna
need to
take the
do,
76 grand from general and the difference between, from the reserve. Okay, but
the
we still.
difference is, go ahead. The difference, call it 32,000, is going to be then split between general and water. So we'll actually need 2 permissive referendums. The backhoe will be here tomorrow. So what I'm anticipating is that we're not going to cut a check on the spot, especially given our recent history with Caterpillar. They can wait a few days. But if we run into time frame, we will pay it out of general, and then do the permissive referendum from both general and water reserves, and then pay ourselves back.
Do you want me to do, you want to do those for Monday then, Gordon, instead of tonight?
We'll plan on it for Monday. We'll see when he invoices us.
Okay,
And that'll be split 50-50. No, wrong. That will be split. I just did it here. That will be split 75% to water and 25% to DPW equipment.
okay. Okay, got it.
While we're at this bridges line here, is that the one, Vicky, that you said we had been putting some of the pedestrian bridge money into, or is that not the same one?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
Ben, and I'll look at that and send it, I can send it to you too, when I send it to Rorden. And if you guys want me to just put it under DPW contractual or wherever it is you guys want it, it's fine. I
Okay.
guess I didn't realize that that bridges meant what Rorden was talking about earlier, so.
That bridges contractual line actually goes back to when the Lake Street Bridge was redone,
Mhm.
2003, 4, 5, 6 timeframe. So that was a project very similar to the Cemetery Road Bridge now, which was a county project. And there was a bit of a cost share with the village.
Okay,
If we had moved forward with all of the work on the Cemetery Road Bridge, that would have been our responsibility, would have been out of water. But if there had been a local cost share for the bridge itself, that's where we would have put it.
okay.
Next up is 5142.1, snow removal, personal services. This is our best guess, shot in the dark, throw a dart at a wall for how much snow overtime costs every year.
Mhm.
I will say the last couple of years, we have come in way under budget. This year will be not so much. That projected balance you see is through the end of January's numbers. February had plenty of snow. So yeah, no need to increase that too much other than the 2% raise, because we have no idea how much snow we're going to get next winter. Snow removal equipment, I would, unless the board objects, Vicky, I would like to zero that out, because the salt spreader, Dusty is working on getting a quote for the new dump truck with plow and salt spreader. So we would pull the whole thing out of DPW equipment reserve.
Okay.
So we can just delete that 13,000. Snow removal, contractual. You're going to remind me, Vicky, what that is. Unchanged from
That's
last year.
the salt contract.
I thought salt was,
Oh, the street maintenance one?
yeah, street maintenance contractual.
No, that's generally like coal patch,
Parking lots.
crushing, that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. Which does beg the question. So street maintenance contractual, I know we'd always kept that number fairly high in case we wanted to resurface a parking lot or do some paving that CHIPS didn't pay for. But I'm seeing we're way, way, way under, and I know that that's why Dusty reduced it. I don't know if there's a sense from the board of wanting to reduce that any further. Maybe, actually, Vicky, maybe if you would highlight that one, 5110.4.
Okay. Yep, got it.
I'd like to go back to Dusty and just triple check that one.
Okay. Okay, snow contractual. Okay.
I just highlighted it on my sheet here. Okay. Street lighting contractual, that's the village lights that we own.
The only thing I didn't know, Gordon, are we gonna have to pay NYSEG something in the near future for all the changes in our lights?
So that will happen more or less all at once. There'll be like CHIPS. You'll have a funds received line from NYPA, our authority for the grant.
Okay.
And then that'll go out to NYSEG to pay for everything.
Oh, so it's an in and an out. Okay.
Right. What we will then have to budget over time is the payback expense line for the portion of the NYPA. Well, it is a loan actually. So the loan money will come from NYPA and pay off NYSEG. And then we will have to, the following year, budget for the loan repayment cycle to NYPA for that loan.
So it won't be in the 21-22 budget year?
Could be. We actually have no idea. We're at the mercy of NYSEG at this point.
Okay.
But
Okay.
they'll create new lines when the money comes.
Okay.
Let's see. Sidewalk contractual is still 0.
I had a question just on, I still can't remember how we like to try and approach sidewalks for the amount that we try and get the DPW to do on a regular basis. Have we been doing that out of contractual or out of the reserve line?
So sidewalk contractual, this line, and maybe we should get rid of it next year, but this line goes back to the village used to have a program where if the property owner repaired their own sidewalk, we would reimburse something like up to $400. And so we had a small amount in there. We have the sidewalk reserve line, which is kind of more for village-based stuff. And the DPW/community work has been paid out of DPW time. We're not paying for material. Well, we are paying for materials, but that's come out of a street contractual line, I think.
Right,
Okay.
the street maintenance line.
Street maintenance line.
Got it.
And then obviously the guys' payroll is coming out of their payroll line.
Right. Okay.
Do you want to get rid of that line, Gordon?
I'll say
Well,
I'm interested in eventually bringing that program or something like it back, but that does not have to be a current conversation. I know Ben and I have been talking about having a bit of a committee to try and come up with some ideas around this to push back to this board to see if we're interested.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't get rid of it just yet, Vicky.
Okay.
The next line, off-street parking contractual, that is village-owned parking lots, paving, expansion, and whatnot. I don't believe anything is slated for paving this coming year.
Can you clarify that paving of parking lots versus the paving of parking lots we were previously talking about?
Old patch being the key term there that I latched onto.
The previous one was for roads.
Okay, just for roads.
Where we're going, we don't need roads. Previous one was for roads. This one is specifically for the municipal lot by the village office, the municipal lot next to the laundromat, and I don't.
The one across from the farmer's market.
Yes, the DPW lot.
And we are confident after this heavy snow winter that we're good and not needing any repairs there.
Yeah, they really don't need I mean, they'll need some minor patchwork possibly, but they generally don't need to be repaved, but once every 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
And I don't
Do we need
believe,
do we need to maintain that? I mean, it's small, but are we in charge of maintaining that new Salo Drive parking area?
By the
no,
Habitat Trail?
it's actually in the town.
It's in the town. Okay.
There's a portion of it which abuts into the village, kind of the pull-off area. But part of the MOU to allow the town to create that was that they would maintain it.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember which way that went. Okay, thanks.
Publicity contractual, I honestly don't even remember what that line was from. Publicity is not something we always seek these days.
We used to use it for the printing of the postcards for the state of the village or anything, you know, that was going to be publicized that was costing money.
You can just take that out of the clerk treasurer contraction.
Okay.
We had talked about what, like a chicken barbecue, farmer's market state of the
Oh,
village?
but to the benefit of somebody who already likes to put on barbecues, like to the benefit of the fire company or to the
Okay, so we
benefit of
wouldn't
Roadway.
front that. We wouldn't front the barbecue.
We have to be careful as a municipality. We can't do that kind of fundraising. Fire company can though. So we'll see if we can make that happen. Moving to the next line, Troopersburg Community Rec. We have given them $500 a year for the last couple of years as it's not a donation. It's by contract, quote unquote. Youth Commission. This is our partnership with the town on the Youth Commission and youth programs that they are now administering. Library contractual. We have given them $5,000 a year for all of recorded village history. Museum, Vicky, you bumped to 1,000.
No, I didn't. I put in what was requested from everybody. No, I didn't raise
Okay.
it.
So
What's
this
the
for the
museum?
board.
Is that the Historical Society?
This is the Historical Society who has asked for $1,000 a year for a while. We've always kept it at the 500, and I would advocate for keeping it at that 500.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
Yeah. Unless
What's
they
they
have
get, what's they
plans.
get used for exactly? I mean,
The Historical Society?
yeah, like I don't hear about like a lot of programming coming out of there. I know they do like occasional. They were doing some walks, like history walks around the village, but
Pre-pandemic, they'd have like a monthly meeting most months and would have a talk or so. And sometimes they'd have a special event, I think. I mean, they also have the building and the upkeep on that stuff. I'm also interested in keeping it the 500, so.
Yeah, I don't see a compelling reason at all to raise that.
Send a request?
I'm sorry?
Did they send a written request? Is there any material that goes with that that I've missed?
No, it's just a letter requesting the amount.
No explanation. Yeah, I'll stick with 500.
I guess I'm being the jerk and even questioning the 500. Just wondering.
Well, we do invest in the village historian. We do invest in some record keeping of our cultural assets. I think that.
I mean, I'm not gonna fight over $500. I'm just,
So we
It just
actually
seems-
had this.
It seems like it's a space with a lot of potential. And,
So Keith, to that point, I was just going to say, I think we could maybe leverage them for future projects.
yeah, I guess that's kind of it'd be nice to explore that a little bit more.
I will say, Keith, there was a very strong debate a few years ago about cutting this after the after the Historical Society decided to weigh in in an unfortunate way on a local heated political issue. And at the end of the day, we just decided it's only $500, and we do value our history. So,
Because they are a private society, right? They have nothing to do with the village, actually. We support a historian, but we don't support the society except in this.
correct.
Okay.
I mean, if you really boil it down to, I mean, there's, you got somebody like the, sorry, I'm blanking on the, our performance venue.
TCFA?
Yeah, that does a lot of programming and could probably benefit from another $500. That could probably go a long way for them. So that's just
Sure, that's a very good point.
comparing active civic agencies with ones that I don't hear as much about, or but again, it's been a crazy year. It's easy to forget. Most programming was 2 years ago. So
But I mean, I think the process here does start with that letter from the group asking for to kind of join into this contract situation that we have. So for folks that are more tapped into the fine arts, I would encourage them to reach out to us.
That's an excellent point, Ben. So the village municipalities are prohibited to give donations. It's one of those fun vagaries of state law. We can't decide to donate to a cause that we like. The cause has to request funding via contract. And so the Historical Society, the library, TCR, they approached us. The chamber last year approached us. So, if TCFA or other groups are interested, and we certainly have the discretion to say yay or nay on whether to spend taxpayer dollars on those requests, but groups can certainly submit requests. Now, I will say in the Historical Society, before we move on from the $500, there is a lot of thinking about some of the pictures and items. There are a lot of great things there. So I can sleep at night saying that $500 is going towards maintenance and upkeep of that portion, that we're helping out with the maintenance and upkeep of the building and the contents. But I certainly don't envision wanting to increase that. At least not at this time.
yeah, I have no problem with the 500.
Our village historian is paid by stipend. That's the following line. The contractual is some discretionary spending for her.
Gordon, what are we doing about the chamber this year?
Chamber. I have left that out unless
Okay.
anyone thinks. No, I don't believe the chamber has made a request for this year like
No,
they did
they
last year.
They haven't? That's interesting, considering things like Winterfest and such not are on the table. So I see TACC in here, but you're saying you want it's a 0. So they would need to, as a liaison, I should probably know this, but I'm not afraid to ask. They should have submitted a letter requesting that.
Mhm.
And
That's
it's
right.
not too late because this hasn't been approved yet.
It's not. We've actually historically not given anything to TACC until last year.
Okay,
They had not requested money of the village previously. We made this accommodation last year because of the financial hardship that they had run into. In the belief that a chamber is good for village businesses and good for the village. I still believe that, but I also won't need to repeat to any of you my long-winded comments about the need for the village events and tourism committee as being kind of more important. Now, if you want to create a spending line for the ETC.
and that would be the question, because that is not, I was looking down, scrolling, and I'm like, I don't think we have any, and I can't remember, I'm sure you remember, Gordon, what those funds are that the town of Ulysses and other places have in their budget. It says, here's some stuff you could ask for if it's worthy.
I would put it honestly, just so that the village has the discretion to help fund items if we decide to help with it. That was a weird sentence. I would probably put that in between zoning and planning.
Okay.
Prior, Jessica, when the village was involved with the Winterfest,
Yeah.
we could, that money was all reimbursed by a tourism grant through the county, which they're not, we've been notified they're not gonna do.
Yeah. I know, stuff's dried up.
Yeah, so,
So let's hold that thought for a few lines here.
Okay.
We have grant contractual, which is again a pass-through spending line when we receive a grant. That's where we spend the grant. We have a grant farmers market, which I believe was zeroed out in our discussion with the farmers market last week.
mhm.
The next 3 lines is based on the farmers market proposal, which we all heard. And I don't have any problem with. FoodNet, did we get a letter from them?
Yes, yep.
FoodNet is something we started based on a received letter, wow, 4 or 5 years ago now at this point, maybe longer. This is Meals on Wheels. I don't have any issue keeping that the same.
I've felt particularly good about this in the past year. They've been doing really great work.
Yeah, no doubt. Zoning personal services. This is the zoning officer portion of Tom's pay. Adjusted for 2%. Zoning contractual. I would like to, based on, Ben has checked with EDR on how much they expect being the operative word, to spend on the remainder of any comp plan revision, or actually, this would be zoning only. So the remainder of their time to revise the zoning ordinance based on the draft comp plan, plus any additions and deletions along the way. They're in the 4,000 and change range, but that includes the comp plan piece. So I would like zoning contractual to be 5,000, Vicki. I think that'll more than cover what we hope to have EDR do for us in the rest of this calendar year.
Okay.
Zoning publishing. So any public meetings, public hearing notices and so forth go into here. Zoning legal.
That was a guess.
No, I like that. Zoning legal. So this would include Guy's time to review the revised zoning ordinance as we move through it. Planning personnel, we do not have a village planner, although we've tried valiantly. Planning contractual. This was EDR's comp plan work, which they are about to wrap up.
Mhm.
And so I would like to zero this out. I think by June 1, we should have hopefully, I would hope, fingers crossed, at least in terms of EDRs, we may still be discussing it publicly, the comp plan. But in terms of their edits and their efforts, I think they should be wrapped up. So I would like to zero out the planning contractual line.
Okay. So
Planning league.
I was gonna say, so the appropriation spending, can we get rid of that line now?
No, we
Okay.
should keep planning board appropriation. I do have it zeroed out.
Okay.
But in the future, if the planning board makes a specific request for money because they want to do a study on something, that's certainly within their purview, and that's where we would fund it.
Okay, no problem.
Planning legal. We had funded this line this past year with $20,000 in anticipation of a likely lawsuit which never materialized. happily. I don't foresee anything. There's certainly nothing that I'm aware of before the planning board today that would be controversial, and I don't really foresee something like that coming along specifically to the planning board. So I would like to reduce planning legal to 5,000. Unless there's objection or someone knows something I don't.
If anything moves forward with the grassroots potential annexation there, would that likely fall under any planning and or zoning?
100% village board.
Okay. Then I can't really think of anything else.
One of the reasons that I wanted the general legal line bumped to 10. Let's see, where are we? Storm drainage contractual. This is blank in your spreadsheet. I believe based on our cost share numbers for the DASNY grant for the drainage along Seneca Street, Congress, Prospect, Seneca Road area, I think we need to have 30,000 in that line.
Okay.
If memory serves. Now, if they begin work before June, some of that will be split between years, but to be safe, I think that should be 30.
Okay.
Refuse and garbage, this is garbage pickup. That's, we're still under contract. Community beautification, that's a beautification grant. No, that's not coming our way. Shade trees, this was a purchase we made just last year, which has been spent. Ben Carver, was there a need to do more of that this year?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, actually. We had talked, this board had about doing more removal. I had suggested possibly doing planting, some kind of a bigger program that would maintain village trees as opposed to just focusing on safety. You guys all sort of voted towards safety, but there is very much still an ongoing need. So I would suggest duplicating the program. We had actually, as a committee, come up with maybe an increase so that we could do planning and planting, but at least the same we would use on trees that would otherwise kill people. I mean, to me, it's very much still an acute need. We did not by any means finish the job there.
Okay. Well, unless there's any objection, let's leave that at the 5,000 for now. And then Vicky, where did I almost forgot, after I said, hold that thought, where do you want to put the events and tourism committee?
Probably up somewhere, in the beautification area. I have to look. I have a book that tells me where to put that stuff. Can I let you know on Thursday what that number is going to be, Gordon?
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm just going to insert it on my sheet. I'm going to insert it.
And what are we calling that again?
Events and Tourism Committee. It's a village committee, so it's not a contractual donation.
And how much do you want to put in it?
Oh, I haven't thought about that yet.
Oh, okay. I'll add it. There's a specific number and I just don't have the book at home. So I'll give it to you.
I'm going to put it after shade trees for now. How about that?
Okay. Okay.
Thoughts from the board on what to put in that line?
I know we're kind of doing this on the fly, but do we have any sense of places we might use that or ways we might use that?
So if you're thinking of it in some ways replacing some of the things that the chamber had given money for, it is the things that happen that we know about, like the Winterfest. They had given, I don't remember, and I'm sorry, I don't, but they had given, the chamber had given substantially really to that. They'd given money to the crit. The chamber's given other monies out in those kinds of an area. But though also recognizing the village, I think sometimes gives services in addition, that's a value to be had. And certainly nobody is trying to say we can't have shade trees because we need to go have a parade. And $500 does do something. $1,000 certainly does more.
Yeah, I'm certainly not looking to duplicate or take over what the chamber has historically done. The committee's role is primarily coordination, but there's some money that we may want to donate to Winterfest. I do have this idea for the use of the farmers market pull-off area. So what if we find, I do want to push that forward. So that'll cost something, and that is village property. It's been a long time since I've known anything about what signage costs. I'd be tempted to go with at least 1,000, maybe as much as 2,500.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about, village parks in general, of which we have but those require, and maybe that's married with some of the tree work too. I mean, there's, these things all feed into each other in some ways in terms of general community health. Yeah, the pull off isn't going to happen for $500. The Western Gateway. We got to come up with a better name, like real quick.
the pull off.
The pull off. No.
Yeah, I was, as we were talking, leaning towards that same kind of range, 1,000 to 2,500 kind of place, depending on how confident we are, I guess, in that we'll be able to really move on all those different pieces in the next year. But if we think we're going to get up and running pretty quickly, then could be on the higher end of that.
Well, let's plug in 2,500. Vicky, highlight that for potential reconsideration if our budget doesn't look friendly.
Okay, I got it.
We have landfill brush maintenance next.
Why is that up
mulching.
more? Do we have to buy something?
So we contract out to have a professional outfit come in and do bulk mulching of all of the debris down there, and that's just gotten more expensive.
Okay.
From a 9010.8 state retirement down through a 9060.84. These are all payroll and employee based. So state retirement, payroll taxes, health insurance. And yes, health insurance is expensive. We have the bond anticipation note for the sidewalk. This is South Street, primarily South Street sidewalks, which we are paying off to the tune of 57 and change a year. We have leased principal fire truck, which of course is a fire line, but you'll notice that's dramatically decreased because the ladder truck has had its last lease payment. We now own the truck with no more payments until the next one. And then we have the police chief's vehicle. We have interest on the fire truck. Now I've skipped over a couple lines because they're out of order on my sheet, but the leaf machine, so the leaf principal and interest can also come out of reserves. That's what we had determined last year, Vicky.
Okay.
We had determined we were going to pay that out of reserve. So whenever it's due, that payment, if you need a permissive referendum, then you'll have to schedule it.
Okay.
So you can delete those yellow leaf truck lines.
Well, I still have to pay them. I still have to pay it. So I still have to-
Out of reserves though.
right, but when I pay it, it has to come out of that lease principal. So our like AUD is right and the auditors do their thing, like with depreciation and all that. But yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, that number can't stay in those lines because that's increasing our levy.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We're not paying for it this year out of taxes. We're paying for it out of reserves. That's why we do the permissive referendum to pull it.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
The key is scheduling that permissive referendum ahead of time
Right.
so that the payment comes from reserves and not a taxed line.
Leaf truck permissive referendum. Okay. I will figure it out. Yep. Okay. Got it.
Intrafund transfer is a placeholder, basically.
Yes.
And then we have reserves. So we have DPW equipment reserve at 45. I think I had, let me check here. So highlight this one, and obviously if the board has a strong opinion one way or the other, let me know. But DPW equipment reserve, I actually in our capital replacement cycle, I have as 40 this year and then 45 next year.
You want me to change it to 40?
So 40 and highlight, and that'll depend on the number on the quote Dusty gets for the dump truck.
Okay.
And we may have to readjust that one.
Okay.
Fire apparatus reserve is what it is. We set that back last fall. Tax stabilization reserve we haven't added to in years. There is a balance in that account though, and we can certainly add to it at some time in the future if we ever want to. Firehouse repair reserve, police vehicle reserve, let's see, police equipment reserve, EMS equipment. Vicki, you have 5,000 in EMS vehicle. I have 25 for this year. Is that a typo?
EMS, say that one more time. Oh,
EMS vehicle.
yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, what do you want to do about village building reserve and sidewalk reserve?
That's a board discussion. I have in my notes, I have village building reserve as being zeroed out this year.
Okay.
We have how much? We have $63,000 in that.
Yes.
And I don't believe there's any project on the horizon for the village office, but repairs can certainly be made out of that reserve line.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm certainly pushing Dusty to keep an eye on the building and build out a list of projects. But I mean, they'd be more kind of maintenance repair projects. I don't think they're going to be massive projects.
Yeah. Sidewalk reserve is an interesting one. There's a little over 15,000 in there. Ben and I were talking about this a few days ago. I did get the number, Ben, by the way. It's now I've lost it. Let me see if my memory is any good today. Yeah, about $175 a linear foot for sidewalk. So if we're doing, maybe even was it 185, somewhere in the $175 to $200, call it, range, a linear foot for sidewalk. So, you're talking about a little over $1 million a mile. So the sidewalk reserve is certainly, there's money there if we need odds and end materials for the volunteer groups. It's going to take us a long time to save up enough to do long stretches on our own without bonding or grants. I am hopeful that there's grant money coming for sidewalks along state roads, but that, we're at the mercy of a whole lot of other people. So I had in my notes to zero out Sidewalk Reserve for this year. See where things go in the next 12 months with grant cycles and whatnot.
I'm in favor. I mean, sidewalks are definitely my, drumbeat that I like to keep knocking on, but my framing of that is making sure we have funding somewhere in the budget for us to do the small DPW build every year, just to kind of keep incrementally doing something. And then this would be just to have a place to put money in the reserve, sorry, this place being the reserve, to, match whatever grants we need, or, whatever kind of pieces that come along with a grant, but primarily leaning on grant funding for the large amount of anything bigger, net new, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So EMS equipment, fire, EMS vehicle, EMS communication, EMS capital. Those were set last fall, EMS maintenance and fire equipment. So now if we jump all the way up to revenue. Vicky, how much was in that sidewalk ban account?
30,000 and change.
There was an appropriated sidewalk ban line. Has that been moved?
Hold on, if you give me.
Oh, I see it.
You
You
got
made
it?
it. You made it second from the bottom.
Okay.
Well, so we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Property taxes, obviously, we figure out at the end. Interest and penalties on real property taxes were projected now to be about 6. So those are all fully paid though now, is that right?
No, we're still waiting for a check from, to make us whole from the town or the county.
The county?
Yeah. So there'll be some more in that. So we'll
Do we have an
probably,
anticipation of how much that'll be?
Tammy or Morgan might know how much. I think we're owed 22,000. So it'll be a little over 6,000 that we'll end up with in the end.
All right. So let's set that at that number, 6,000 for this year.
Okay.
Property tax or non-property tax. So this is sales tax. So there's a debate or a conversation for us to have. We had budgeted 395. Our receipts for last budget year, ending May of 2020, was somewhere in the 415 range. So when you hear about sales tax declining, that 361, I think, Vicky, we're a check shy.
It is, because the what was it, 42,000 and change word that I just sent
Right.
you is not included in that.
Right. So we're on pace for about 375-ish, 370 to 375, which is a huge decrease from 415. But since COVID had already hit last March, we anticipated a decline and we kept our expectation at 395. So we're short of that by, call it 20,000. I'm actually hopeful that with the rebound we've seen in sales tax in the fall and through this winter, that we'll be back on pace for about 395. Now we can, that's where we're just guessing. It's like guessing it's snow overtime. So I would actually recommend keeping the sales tax number at 395 for the 3rd year in a row. Certainly wouldn't want to bump it up. I could be talked into decreasing it slightly, but that means we are anticipating a period of time similar to last April through July at some point from June through next May. You know, economic cycles being what they are, it's certainly not impossible, but
So say that again, we're experiencing, we would be anticipating April through July of last year to be this June through May of next year.
we were anticipating a 4-month sales tax slowdown of the magnitude we saw last year
Mhm.
to happen sometime in our next budget year. I'm not anticipating that, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. We don't know what Cornell's going to look like in the fall. We don't know what Tompkins County businesses are going to look like. However, when we look at the demand bounce back from late summer through the fall of 2020, just look at, you know, the number one sales tax generator in Tompkins County is automobile sales. And if you just drive by a car lot, you see how empty they are. So the demand is there, which leads me to believe that will continue. But all kinds of things can happen. This is where we get to play a little bit of armchair economist. You know, if interest rates start to creep up, is that going to hurt purchasing power? You know, all of those questions. So I'm inclined to leave it at 395 unless someone feels that we need to be more conservative in our guesswork.
I think I am too. I'm just trying to make sure I'm also understanding this. So you're saying we're aiming at a little around like 375 for June of last year to June of this year. Is that right?
June 1 of last year to May 31 of this year, it'll be around 370-ish, plus or minus.
Right. And so we're saying we think it's going to be a little bit better than that. And I think I feel comfortable with that. You know, I think we're going to be doing better than we're all still a lot of people were pretty spooked still, you know, in June, July, August last year.
Right. Well, and just looking, you know, just looking at the actual sales tax checks we received for sales in June and sales in July last year, were down 25% from the previous June and July. And so even with that, again, if we compare a 370 number to a 420 number, then it's a huge decline.
But wasn't the December check, Roden, $13,000 or $15,000 more than last year's December check?
Yeah, there was a significant bounce back.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find, I don't have an easy way to see the actual from the previous year. From the 18-19. Yeah, the 18-19 actual, I want to say was in the, no, I don't remember what it was.
It was 350 for 18-19.
350 for 18-19. That was the actual. I'm sorry.
Wait,
18-19. Well, yeah, 19-20. What was the nine? No.
The 1920 was 422,620. Oh,
Right, so
wait,
that-
no, I take that back. Wait a minute. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
422,620.
19-20 was 422. What was the 18-19 actual?
Hold on. Actual 18-19.
It's in the spreadsheet.
953.
So, well, so 18-19 came and call it 360. And we budgeted 395. So we were aggressive with that number. And we came in 30,000 over it. In spite of 4 months of crashed sales taxes. Of course, we only caught 2 months of crashed sales taxes at the end of that.
Right.
So I think 395 is okay. I mean, if we hit 370 with a couple of really bad months in there, we can always hit something bad again. Who knows? But it certainly makes the budgeting easier if we keep the number the same.
But won't it help with hopefully tourism coming back with people getting vaccines and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's big ticket items that generate sales tax. So it's restaurants. It's automotive sales and restaurants in that order are number one and number two. So
Sure, fine, 395.
utilities gross receipts. We now have that as projected at what, Vicky, 39?
26. Oh, yes, 39,261.
So I have that in my sheet at 39,000 even.
Okay.
Clerk fees, we have 750. Police fees, 1,200. Police vest reimbursement, chief is expecting 500. Fire inspection fees, these are annual fees on businesses, 2,000. Police contracts, we're leaving zeroed out. We don't know what that's going to look like. Again, I historically, that's been basically grassroots,
Right.
burn dairy during grassroots. So I don't think we can plan for that at this point. Same thing. Yeah, police contracts there. EMS revenue, we actually put in a different line, right?
Well, EMS revenue, that's if they did stand by at football, soccer games, that kind of stuff.
Got it. It's just a reimbursement line from the school.
Yeah, yep.
Zoning fees we have is 3,000.
What about the crossing guard reimbursement? Did you mention that?
That line we can actually get rid of now because it was supposed to be part of a grant program that the police were going to do, that we were going to hire another crossing guard, but the school was going to be responsible for.
No, we're going to leave that line in there. It wasn't a grant.
Oh,
It wasn't. It was an MOU with a school. If we add a crossing guard at South and Wig, and the school would split the cost. That was supposed to start in the spring of 2020, and there was no school, so we haven't added it. It is possible we may look to do that this spring.
Okay.
But that's going to depend on staffing, and we still have a third of the school district learning remotely, so it remains to be seen what the foot traffic actually looks like there. But we should definitely keep that line in.
I was thinking the resource officer.
No. We should leave that line in there, but we don't have a way to budget for it because we don't know what school is going to look like with the walking and so forth. Operating permit fees, those are code fees. Planning board fees we have zeroed out. Stop DWI is grant money that is fairly consistent. I don't know if we're going to hit that number this year, so chief has reduced it for next year. Fire protection and EMS, these are the monies that the town pays us for those two services. Interest and earnings is really sad.
Somebody talk to a financial guy about that.
Yeah, seriously. Interest and reserve accounts is even more sad. Rental wireless, these are contracts we get paid for all the wireless apparatus on the water tower.
Yeah.
Building permits, this is a guess. Shot in the dark on what is going to be collected in terms of building permits. The next few lines, sale, real property, sale of equipment, insurance recoveries, these are all just placeholder lines in case we have those revenue lines. For instance, this year we'll have the backhoe sale in there under sale of equipment. Skipping down to the mulch dial-up truck.
Wait, what's the miscellaneous income?
It's miscellaneous.
Yeah, that always makes me nervous.
What's that 14,000 in there this year, Vicky?
14,000. Well, we got a check from AT&T for $13,000, and I can't get a hold of anyone to tell me what it's for. So I don't know if they're paying a full year for their rental or they just gave us $13,000. I think I've called 5 or 6 different numbers. Can't get a hold of anybody.
It's probably the wireless, because that would take us to 27 in that line, which is close to
Okay.
what is due, but.
I'll
yeah,
I'll change that then.
Well, I would
Let's
keep
find out.
nagging until we find out
Yeah.
what it is for this.
Okay. Yeah, I just can't get a hold of them. Nobody.
I think they also settled a lawsuit with customers.
Yeah.
I don't think we get that much, but I know, personal phone owners
Mhm.
got some money this past year.
That would be nice.
I don't know. That's a lot.
Vicky, the miscellaneous grant line, the 3554.56, the $3,500. What was that from?
We did get money from the beautification, which is technically from last year. I'd have to look specifically, Warden.
Just curious. No, not urgent.
Okay.
Mulch dial truck. This is just a guess of what we will probably receive from folks taking advantage of that service. State revenue sharing per capita, we need to reduce, that's AIM aid. We need to reduce that to 10,040, 10,040.
Okay.
That represents a 20% cut to all AIM aid to municipalities that the governor has requested in his budget.
Mm.
Mortgage tax, we have at 15. That sounds about right. Might be a little low, actually. State aid other. Wish there was state aid other. Consolidated highway, that's CHIPS.
Mhm.
And then there's those farmers market lines from last week.
Yep.
Now that appropriated from Sidewalk Reserve, that should be appropriated from Sidewalk Ban, not Reserve. Right? That's not in the Sidewalk Reserve account.
Oh, okay. Yep, you're right. Okay.
And let's plug in 15,000 there. If there's 30 left, we'll split it.
Okay, so generally, Warden, what I do is, or I've always done, is if we've had appropriated money and our revenue ends up being more than our expenditures, do you want me to wait until May to do, I generally wait till May to do this. To do the transfer. If we need it.
Right. But we're still, last year we had leftover sidewalk ban money.
Right,
And we decided to allocate 17 of it to our budget.
right. So if at the end of May, our expenditures are less than our revenue, we don't need to transfer because we don't need that revenue.
That's fine. But for next year,
But you want to do 15 for, I understand.
for
Okay,
next year, I'm expecting we'll definitely want that 15.
okay.
And then the last line is anticipated EMS billing revenue.
Yes.
We were on pace for 95. What happened?
COVID.
No, as of end of December 31, your last spreadsheet number, we were on pace for 95 by the end of May. So I guess January came in light.
Yes, January's number, yes. Oh, I didn't do January back in February. Because of the snow and I couldn't get it done. So you said, go ahead and wait.
So this 60,654 balances number,
Yes.
is that through the end of January or end of December?
That is, well, technically through the end of December.
All right.
So
Well, you'll have that up, you'll have that updated, but let's put in, let's leave that 95,000 as our guess
yeah,
for next budget year.
sorry.
Okay.
Oop.
Any other thoughts? I think what we can do, unless there's anything we want to go back over, we will have Vicky update all of these lines and then send the spreadsheet around again. And unless everyone, or I should say, unless anyone adds a whole bunch of stuff to our agenda next Monday, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, we will spend some time on what Vicky updates in this general budget next Monday night. Maybe, fingers crossed, be able to put that part to bed next Monday night. And then at our budget meeting on the 16th, we will tackle water and sewer, which are pretty straightforward. And that seems good to everyone.
Gordon, did you do anything about the sewer number? Because it was supposed to increase again next year. Have you done anything about that? Or did you want me to figure that out?
I'll give you the number.
Okay,
The sewer rents number
yes,
needs to be 475,000.
okay,
And then you and Tammy and Morgan will have to recalculate what that does to the sewer rates.
Okay.
But we also in the mix with that, we have MRB's recalculations, which we're working on as far as commercial and multi-unit EDU count. So the next bi-monthly bill, there's a May bi-monthly bill, correct?
mhm,
So we're going to probably have those rates adjusted we need to have those rates adjusted for the July bi-monthly bill.
mhm.
So there could be a lot of spreadsheet work in the next few months on that piece. But you can plug in 475 as the sewer rents, Vicky, and if we need to, we can back that down.
Okay.
And Gordon, did you send the agenda for next Monday? I apologize. I can't find it did you send it?
I would be sending it normally tomorrow.
Okay, cool. And we have slated, so I can get my ducks in a row. We have slated to talk heavily about the comp plan. Is that correct?
We have comp plan comments are due by the end of this week. We will have the comp plan on the agenda to begin conversation. I certainly am not anticipating we will solve all of the world's problems in that conversation, especially after some of the feedback we're receiving.
How do you envision going through that document as a board and going through comments? I'm wondering, I'm asking because I'm wondering if there's sort of more preparatory work I should be doing to be more productive at that meeting, like reading other people's comments, or just sort of wondering what the process, because it's 112 pages with appendices, right?
So I have a list. I'm just looking. I have a list of a couple of dozen comments, mostly either typo, formatting, grammar type of things. So if anyone else is doing that, I hope I'm not the only one.
No, I read a lot of purple happen in the past couple days.
So my thought was that the board would kind of go through the more practical part of that, unless anyone objects or wants to do it differently. And Ben Darfler, I'm looking at you for this. If we want to, my thought had been for the board to go through its high-level comments first, then go through any comments from any of the zoning or planning board members that we haven't already addressed, and then move on to any comments from members of the public that we've received via email that haven't been addressed by any of the three boards getting through it. And then for members of and that will then include probably, particularly for members of the public, any kind of philosophical conversations about the content. I've sort of actually taken the approach, Jessica, that kind of the purpose of a comp plan is to articulate the current desires as best as we can glean them from surveys and community input of the public, and that my opinion as a board member is kind of irrelevant to the comp plan piece, other than the input that I gave as a member of the public. So I'm sort of, again, I'm open to being steered on this a little bit, but I don't know that the village board necessarily wants to say make up something. You know, if the data from the survey and the participants and the community inputs say that X% of the community wants X, that the village would then say, we're really not going to prioritize that because. So I almost sort of see our review as more technical, because the comp plan is essentially a very large visionary document. I think the zoning, drafting of the zoning is where we really get into the weeds on, you know, how big should that lot size be? You know, the comp plan says we want, quote, more density. Well, what does that really mean? Well, that's where we can really kind of flesh it out. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying that's kind of what I had in mind to start on Monday. And I expect it to take several months for us to wade through all of our thoughts and the thoughts from the other two boards and public thoughts before we even get to at least one, probably two public meetings, and then the public hearing.
Okay, and so that's very helpful, Roden. Thank you. And so Ben, is it a good idea for me to still be making comments on that track change document, or should I be isolating my own comments from that environment?
So I would say for the document, so there's a SharePoint link that's been sent around with a document, and you can do track change edits in there. I would still suggest people go ahead with that if they're of the more kind of grammatical, stylistic changes, not really kind of about the substance per se, because I don't want to. It's not a good use of our time to sit here and say like, I think it should read like this instead of like that. Like that's yeah. We tried that as a committee and it fails miserably in kind of this environment. But I think if there are broader conversations, I personally like having. I put them in there as comments because that's how I'm going to remember them best. But if someone wants to track them on their own piece of paper and bring them up in this committee, I think either way is fine as long as we're hitting the larger substantive conversation here.
Good, thanks.
And I will say that I'm looking at my notes, most of my notes on it are of the, you know, it's the Ulysses Summer Rec program, not the Village Summer Rec program. Unfortunately, that's a lot of what it is. And I haven't been looking at the track changes to see if anyone else has caught it. And I don't know if I'll be able to do that before Monday. So Ben, I don't know whether it's better to go over that in a meeting or compile this in an email or wait till after the meeting.
I wonder if we.
Go ahead, Jess.
Well, I was just wondering if we might want to have a version that's the board that we are looking at, that we, the board, make comments on, and then compare to the larger draft.
You mean individually or as a board?
As a board, like for example, in the land of shared documents and you know, Microsoft, right, or Google Docs, we have a version, and this is where we're making our comments as us, and we can see them.
I mean, I would encourage people to use that SharePoint link, and if folks want me to send it out, I can again. I mean,
because it's not just us. That's not like all the boards and all the people.
So this has been shared to the boards, but not publicly. So it would just be this board, the ZBA, and the planning board. I think that might be sufficient.
Yeah.
The public is not commenting on the SharePoint doc. The public has the ability to read the PDF and submit comments via email.
Okay.
And yeah, so I think I would encourage people to go to that SharePoint. if we don't get in by Monday, as Roden said, we're not going to be one and done on Monday by any means. So there's definitely time to add things back in, or we can find other ways of kind of getting those smaller details. I find the smaller details are easier just as track changes, because it's just kind of, you don't have to explain in this paragraph over here, I think this word should say that, where it's like, it's just there and we're done.
You just created a lot of homework for me, Ben.
Sorry, sir.
I'll add it.
But yeah, so I think our time is going to be best spent having those deeper conversations about any other issues that have come up.
Okay, so we will have a refreshed budget spreadsheet this week. Thank you, Vicky. We will go over it some more next Monday. We will start on the comp plan next Monday. I have not gotten anything from you all back from my email yesterday with agenda items. I'll take that as a good sign. If you do have anything, get it to me by tomorrow, and then I'll send the agenda around on Thursday. And we can keep it relatively budget and comp plan oriented if we want. Bearing in mind that our April monthly meeting is just a month away, is when we have to adopt the budget. So we have to get those done. That's also our annual organizational meeting that tends to be a fairly long one. I'm just checking my notes. I don't have anything to add to next Monday's agenda other than budget and comp plan anyway.
So I have a fire department meeting tomorrow, and if it were, I guess I could still wait. It's just March. I guess I can wait. They are kind of, I think, hesitant to say yes. Of course, we'll with absolute certainty we'll do that chicken barbecue until we have an actual date of when that might be in May. But I don't know that they actually need to know that tomorrow, because we don't have that date, right?
Right, we do not. That was going to be something to discuss next Monday.
March, April, May. We should maybe consider that, because if we wait until April, then that's only a month in advance, and that might feel.
Right. Okay.
There's now hope that everyone who wants a vaccine can get one by the end of May. So
There is?
So that might bode well for having a May meeting outside.
I have my appointment scheduled.
Oh, yay, Vicky. Great.
I'm
You're gonna know what society thinks of you based on what you're told you're getting. Like, Mr. Hand, you'll be getting the Johnson & Johnson. You'll be getting the 66% effective vaccine. Mr. Hart, you'll be getting the Moderna.
Yes, that would be me, Keith, too. Don't worry about it.
Anything else for this evening? Do we have need of an executive session? That's music to my ears. Anything else for the good of the order before we call it a night? Very good. Yes.
I just want to, I'll have everything updated by Thursday, because I want to talk to Bailey Place and make sure I have his numbers right to also put in here. So it'll be a day, okay, guys, if that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Then, going once, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
I was going to say, somebody second that thing.
Second.
All right. We'll call that good. Everybody, thank you. Talk to you soon.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.